I'm on. Don't have Trevor tonight to make sure that the audio is working. But thank you for joining me. We're back again for another real estate plate. And as you can tell, something's a little different today. Something is a little bit different today. There's no WGBB in the background. There's no hello and welcome to the real estate plate coming to you from the blah 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 from WGBB. Nothing like that. It's a live stream. This is something that's a little bit different, and we don't have a scheduled show that's going on the radio station today, and there's probably a replay going on as we speak. Was not meant to do a show today. However, I did promise that we were going to do a live stream and a drop on a different topic today. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm making sure that I fulfill my promises to everybody. So that being said, what are we going to talk about today? What are we going to talk about? First of all, before I even get into whatever we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about how was your Easter? I hope everybody had a wonderful Easter. Everybody that celebrated Easter yesterday, because I didn't celebrate Easter yesterday because I'm Greek. And, Greek people, we do things a little different. We do things, we go by the beat of our own drum. We do things different. We're having Easter next week. So happy Easter to everybody that already celebrated. I'll say happy Easter to everybody again for this upcoming one. And I hope everybody had a happy Passover as well. And that's it. We're done with all the happies. Hey, NYC guy, how are you doing? Thank you for joining me. I didn't think anybody was going to join us. We're about an hour later than our usual time schedule, but I figured if I'm going to, you're actually not late at all. We just started the stream. This is not a regular radio broadcast that we're doing. This is a live stream that we're doing from my own personal home office. We're doing it. You could tell that I'm nice. I'm dressed with a t-shirt instead of a shirt, or I'm a little less formal today. Wearing pastel colors because it's springtime and Easter's are in the air. So we're going to take it a little bit lax, a little bit easy going with this show. Found a background finally. You can still see a little look at that. You can see half my hand. Technology is not there yet. The technology is not there yet. However, we're getting there. I finally found a background that doesn't distort half my head. So that's a positive thing, right? You can see my full head. That's positive. You can see my body. You can see my entire body. That's a positive thing as well. But we're doing this in the best possible way we can. Why am I so wrinkled? Maybe I'm being paranoid. But that being said, why am I doing this stream today? Well, I wanted to tackle a topic that I don't want to be restricted by time. Maybe I could end the show a little earlier. Maybe I could go over. It doesn't matter. I have no time restrictions this way. Usually, whenever I do a radio show, the radio show lasts for an hour. And I'm stuck because Trevor is going to kick me right out whenever I do it. Now I could take my time with the topic and I could actually talk and get deep. I could get deeper into it, and I could actually answer questions and do everything that is necessary. I'm going to actually put a live stream on here. Link. Just put it in there. If you could see it, this is the StreamYard link. If you wanted to join the stream, you're more than welcome to. It's a little bit more lax today. Not as much on guard because I don't have the FCC watching me or listening to me right now. So I have a little bit more cablage as far as trying to communicate, being able to communicate with everybody. And I don't have to worry about anything I say or anything I do right now causing us to get a fine with the radio show. So that being said, it could be a dangerous thing because sometimes when I don't have a filter, things come out the way they shouldn't come out. But that being said, What are we talking about today? What are we talking about today? We're talking about real estate scams. Okay. Now, yeah, there's scams in every single sector and every side of a business that's out there, and there's not a chance in hell that I'm gonna be able to cover every single scam that's out there. But I'm gonna point out some of the stuff that has been evident, some of the stuff that really does go out and it is very, very common, and people don't realize how common these things are that happen. So I want to be able to point these things out to everybody to give everybody a little bit of a understanding of what is going on, and hopefully I enlighten some people, shed some facts that will make everybody a little bit knowledgeable, a little bit more careful, and they'll do um, their own due diligence, and they'll be more careful as far as what type of stuff that they're getting into. So that being said, I'm actually putting in the stream into Facebook as well. Like I said, I'm not under any restrictions right now. I could take my time with it. We don't have to rush through. I don't have to worry about advertisers. I don't have to worry about the Chinese program before me or the nut that's after me that plays all the music. Today is a nice, easygoing night that I'm able to um, just really put something out there good. And as I'm saying that, I just want to make sure that if there's anybody that wants to have something answered or any questions that you have, please feel free to actually um, put them in the chat, in the comments. And if you wanted to actually have your voice heard, today, amongst any day, is your easiest way to get on the platform. Because, like I said, when you don't have restriction on time and that kind of thing, you're able to really dive deep and get into more serious conversations. Okay, so apparently now I got my Facebook people in. We'll see who comes in from there. I'm just gonna give us a second. I know the worst thing you could possibly do ever do is have dead air while you're on. I know that. I know that you don't want to have dead air. However, this is my channel and this is my radio show, and I make the rules. So if I have some dead space, that's okay. We could have some dead space. It also gives everybody a chance, an opportunity to actually jump on, because like I said, I didn't do any promotion. I didn't do any advertising for this show right now. And I'm betting on people actually coming onto the replay instead of the live show. So I'm going to start off with one thing. And I think everybody's heard this before, and anybody with some common sense realize how valid this is. When you hear something that's too good to be true, when you hear something that is so good, it's so good to be true, it usually is not. It's usually not. And why am I saying this? Because I'm seeing the web, I'm seeing YouTube, I'm seeing Facebook, I'm seeing everywhere you could possibly look on social media, on all different platforms, even on infomercial, TV, ads, paper ads, print ads, anywhere you could think of, signs on the street stating that they can make you rich right now in real estate. Okay. And I want to say something. I've actually looked into a lot of these different platforms, and there's a lot of systems, we'll call them systems, that everybody puts together of how it's fail safe and you're going to make a lot of money and it's going to be the absolute best thing on earth for you. Well, anytime you have one of these kind of situations, it's usually based off of some truth. There's always some truth. There's a little tidbit of truth that's attached to it. Those are usually the best lies and the best scams, because usually if there's a little truth and a little validity to it, people have a lot less reservation as far as giving you opposition on it, comparison to if it's a complete, fairy tale. Now, why I'm saying this is because obviously everybody knows what kind of market we're in right now, what kind of market we've been in for the past couple of years. And it was a hot market in a lot of sectors. And in some cases, it's still a hot market. However, using proven methods during this market hype that we had, hysteria, whatever you want to call it, is not something that you really want to apply moving forward. Now, I'll give you the perfect example. Formulas that worked a year ago, 2 years ago, based on the buying price of a property, don't work today. The margins aren't there. For example, you bought a $500,000 home, okay? It's worth $500,000 if it was renovated, that kind of thing, and you got it at a deal for $350, $375, let's say, okay? You might have been able to do very minimal, give it a coat of paint, dress it up a little bit, that kind of thing. Put lipstick on a pig kind of a situation, and flip it immediately for $475,000, $500,000 within a very short time period. This was happening very common in the past, 2 years ago, let's say. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, that's a really high margin. You're making almost $100,000. Well, no, it costs you probably about $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 maybe to do the renovation, repairs, lipstick, cosmetics, what I was telling you about, and you have other expenses, well, carrying costs. You have if you don't have a broker and that kind of thing, you don't have broker fees. Let's say you don't have that involved. And you go in, you got transfer taxes, and you also have income taxes that you're going to have to pay on that margin. So at the end of the day, that $100,000 that you're talking about might actually be something closer to $50,000 or $60,000 net. Whether you're going to have that at the end of the day. Nice margin as well. 10% return. If you could do that in a matter of 6 months, why not? That's a really nice return. However, the margins have thinned right now because you can't get those properties, those $500,000 properties for $375,000, $400,000 anymore. Now you're getting them for $425,000, $450,000 if you're lucky. Yes, and the market has appreciated. It's gone over more. The houses have been jumping to $550,000, maybe even $600,000 from that point. But you're also going based on a trend. Now, let's say that trend pauses for a second, or they're not moving for a second, and you need to take a reduction on there. Your margins are starting to slim more and more. Now, why I'm saying this and why I'm bringing this up as a thought process and a guidance for a lot of the people that are watching, I've seen this happen a little over a decade ago, where a lot of people got stuck trying to be those flip kings, trying to be those amateur flippers, making quick money in and out from properties, moving them, turning them over, that kind of thing. And when the market dropped, they got stuck with these properties. Now, some of them lost the properties because they just ran out of money and couldn't keep rehabbing them. and just didn't have the funds to be able to maintain and keep them. And sometimes they got the place by hard money and that kind of thing, loans sometimes. Other people had to take drastic losses, took a bath, took a lot of loss. And other people got stuck in limbo where they were sitting on that property for a long, long time, and they were lucky to break even at the end. Maybe, maybe. Now, I'm not saying that's happening right now, this minute. It's not happening this minute. However, it's bound to happen. So when you're listening to one of these real estate gurus, I'm going to call them again, real estate gurus, that are telling you, here's your way to buy it. You're going to buy it at 20% under market. You're going to buy it 30% under market. Well, who's actually determining where that market is? Where is that market? It's what you're determining the market is, right? But you know what? The market swings and the market shifts. You could be worth at 550 right now, and you could be worth 500 or 475 by end of the year. It might take you by the end of the year to actually finish all the work that you did, and you got it at a higher price. Not saying that you can have that drastic of a drop, but not saying that that's going to happen. However, it can happen. So how do you hedge against this? How do you do? You buy smarter. You buy properties that have potential and higher margins and higher possibilities to be able to make a profit on. Now, I'm not going to sit down and do a whole radio. I'm not going to do this whole stream telling you step by step of how to be able to actually make that money and how to pick out your margins, that kind of thing. That's not for somebody to be able to do in a 1, 2, 3. This is an experience thing that people need to acquire over time. Yes, you can put a big team together. Not a big team. You can put a nice team together of people around you in order to help guide you and put you in the right position to be able to make the right moves and maximize your margins. You could definitely do that. But you have to be very, very careful. You can't just, it's worked 6 months ago, I'm going to do it right now. No, you got to follow the trends. You got to know exactly what's happening. And the same way the media oftentimes is behind the ball as far as catching up with what the trends are, where the market is. That's the same way a lot of these programs, these guru master plans and real estate get rich quick schemes work. They're behind. And the other thing is, a lot of times people are telling you, well, I made so much money. I made so much money that I want to be able to share that with the rest of the world and tell you all about it and all about it. And so you can make just as much money as my. I'm going to give you a little secret. I'm going to tell you something that you need to have in your mind and understand. Odds are somebody that's making hand over fist, making a ton of money right now, they don't have the time to sit there and put seminars together and tell you how to make money quick in the same business that they're actually in the process of doing. They're going to put you as a competitor to them. Think of it like that. As much money as it could possibly make, because these real estate programs and everything are a dime a dozen. There's so many of them out there. There's so many different individuals that you go out there. You could go down the line of everybody that's out there. And maybe if there's enough interest in the thing, I'll go and I'll dissect some of these programs for people and tell you how valid or invalid they are. And if you'd like to send me an email, or you could even put it in the comments below or here in the live chat of a specific program that you were interested in, or you got burned on, or you actually triumphed in, send it over. I'll sit there and I'll look it over. I'll evaluate. You know what? I might even purchase the program and run it through just to see how valid or invalid it is. Because what I will tell you is the people that are making a lot of money, they don't have the time to sit and put these programs together. unless they're at the twilight of their career, they're 90 years old, they're done, and they want to share. And notice something else. None of these programs are cheap. They're not free. They're not doing it a non-for-profit. They're not doing this to help educate the world. They're all charging steep costs, and the subscriptions and the fees that they charge on a monthly basis, and whatever, however they charge their program, or one flat fee, whatever the case is, they're not cheap. So their business model is to sell the program, not the properties themselves. So be very, very careful. Very, very careful. And there's a lot of celebrities out there right now that are endorsing some of the things. And there's a lot of influencers, social media people that have built themselves quite a reputation or quite a following. And they're not doing the right thing. Believe me. There's some programs that are valid. And I'm not going to lump everybody into that. I'll give you, for example, over the years, I've read some of the books by Robert Kiyosaki. And Robert Kiyosaki, if you read a lot of the literature he puts out there, there's a lot of valid things, and there's a lot of stuff that's in those books that give you that aha moment. Aha moment. Now, I've never taken any of his courses or any of his classes and that kind of thing, but I have watched some of the seminars he had online, and I've read the books. I've listened to a lot of the audiobooks that he has as well, and there's a lot of stuff that's super valid in there. Super valid. I can't say that I see anything that's really not. Now he's got a board game, similar to like a Monopoly kind of thing. It's really interesting, and I'm actually thinking about purchasing one of those so I could put it on display it, maybe get a couple of friends, and we'll play it out and see how it actually works. Because one of the things that, honestly, I'm going to say something to anybody that's watching and has kids. As they're growing up, everybody's getting stuck on the whole video game and technology and digital age and this kind of thing. When I was a kid, we had board games. We had toys. We had board games. And there was one board game above all, that was very, very educational. And it gave you a lot of different thoughts that processed in your mind as you played it. And that was Monopoly. I used to play Monopoly with my kids all the time. And if they ever want to play again, I'd play again with them. All three of my kids love that game. And the truth be said, I feel that playing games like that with kids start opening their minds up in a different way. And you have nothing to lose. Sit down with your kids, play Monopoly, get them understanding how the real estate world works to some extent, to some effect. Now, that being said, Robert Kiyosaki has his own board game as well. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, everybody knows him. If you don't, like I said, I could do a whole video just on him. There might be something valid to that board game. So I'm going to probably purchase that game, and I'll actually see what it's all about and see if there's any valid value that comes out of it. Because that's the thing. I want to see what value comes out of it. There's a lot of stuff out there that, hey, that's kind of nice, but you could get it for free on the web and Google and this and that, whatever the case is. But the actual board game that actually gives you life lessons, that might actually be really valid and really good. So I'm actually really, really interested in actually doing, getting a version of it and actually demoing it. So we'll definitely do that in the future. But again, I'm not highlighting him or any other person specifically. I just wanted to throw one person out there that has something of value, because I don't want everybody to think that everybody that's putting out these things on the web, they're scam artists. They're not. Not everybody is. There are some things of pure value out there. but you have to be very careful. And you can't take things word for word that people are telling you. Do your due diligence. Be very, very careful. Now, that being said, we talked about scam artists, gurus, that kind of thing. And like I said, I could get into it for a long, long time. And I'm not going to beat a dead horse unless there's somebody on here that wants me to get into more specifics. And if you want me to actually get into details on certain things, I'll do that with my pleasure if anybody wants me to point things out. But there's a lot of stuff out there. That's one of the things that's flying around. Another thing that I've seen lately that's coming back, for a while back, we had a lot of issues where people were scamming people for rentals, where they would you'd have people that are pretending to be real estate professionals, and some of them actually were real estate professionals. They're not so nice people. And finding vacant homes that are not listed and not ready for rent. They don't know the landlord, but they're either abandoned or they're vacated, or they're by empty nesters, etc., etc. And you have people that are actually going in. They're going in and leasing out the place with faithfully leases, taking money from the tenants, taking in cash a lot of times, taking the security deposits, pet deposits, etc., etc., etc. And then they get in there, and all of a sudden the police comes in, knock on the door, and they tell the people, hey, you don't belong here. You're trespassing. I say, well, I have a lease. Who's this person? I'm the landlord. It's not a valid lease. Now, it's a nightmare for the landlords, because the landlords have to take them to court to evict them, or they have to get a judgment, and whatever. There's a lot of stuff that is involved in that. And we could do a whole video about that. But then the tenants that just got scammed are stuck. They're losing all that money. They got to move, spend a whole bunch of moving money again. The whole thing is a nightmare, very costly, and it's very invasive. It's something that is predatory on the highest level, in my opinion. Especially, you got people, families that go in. Not that it's okay to do it to a single person, whatever the case is, but families with little kids, you scam them for all this money. Now they have to move out. Maybe they don't have the money to move out. It becomes a real burden and a real bad situation for all parties. And the reason I bring this up is because I've been slowly hearing stories about stuff like this happening again. So I figured I'd bring this to attention, and I'll give everybody a few tips. I'll give everybody a few tips so you can understand of red flags that might happen. One, if you are looking at a specific rental, and you're looking to become a tenant, and it's being showed by somebody, the person that's showing, you should ask them for some kind of identification. If they're a real estate agent, you should have a card. They should have some kind of identification that they're providing for you to know who they are. Look them up. Just make sure that they're a legitimate real estate professional. It's very easy to do. You could do a quick Google search, and I'm sure like a million things will pop up on them. But even better than that, you go to the Department of State website and see if they have an active license. That's one thing. Okay? You want to do something like that. The other thing is, if you are potentially looking to move into the place and it's an absentee landlord, well, before you sign the lease, you want to know what the name of the landlord is. Ask and find out who the name of the landlord is, or who the presenting is the landlord. And then do a public search to see if the landlord's names match up. Now, it won't always match up. especially if it's an investment property and it's purchased under an entity like an LLC or S corp or corporation or something along those lines. If it's purchased that way, it's not going to have the exact name of the person that might be signing. However, on the lease, if it's owned by an entity or LLC, it should show the name of that entity. And then the signer would be the owner or member or whatever the case is. You want to make sure that these things match up. So if you're looking to lease or rent out a place and they tell you the landlord's name is Bob Brown and you're seeing public records everywhere, it's, I don't know, Judy Smith, that's a red flag. You want to make sure that you know who it is that's renting out the place to you, and you want them to have contact information, that kind of thing, before you sign anything, and before you give any kind of money over, any kind of deposits over. Now, that brings me into another thing. Another thing that you really, really need to understand and be very careful of. In this world of everything going digital and that kind of thing, it's a very rare thing that a lot of people are paying in cash. However, it still exists. And a lot of the people that are paying in cash are sometimes in a very precarious position. You have people that are paying in. All right, so let me put this in a really simple way. If you have somebody that's asking you up front a full month or 2 months or all of the money all up front before you even sign a lease, that's a red flag in itself. A deposit would be acceptable. However, if you're not paying in check, or if it's not coming in through some kind of ACH wire transfer or something along the line where you have a digital paper trail or a real paper trail involved, you need to have some kind of receipt that's given to you when you're given the rent or the deposit. Now, you do not hand over cash without a receipt. I'm sorry. It doesn't make any sense to do something like that. There's no reason to trust somebody in that way that's a complete stranger. Sometimes you shouldn't trust even people you know. But I don't care how minimal it is, $500, $1,000, $100, $1. I don't care what it is. You get a receipt. And there's no reason whatsoever, either the real estate professional that is accepting your money, which they should not be, that should be going straight to the landlord, or the landlord themselves or the property manager collecting the rent. They need to give you a receipt on the spot. It just happened. This is the way it is. So when the time comes and you need to move in or you need to get the keys or whatever, and say, well, I give my deposit and here's the balance. Well, you didn't give us a deposit. What are you talking about? We rented this to somebody else. But I gave my deposit. We don't have any deposit. We don't have a record of that. How are you going to prove that? You going to take him to court? He said versus he said, she said. It's not an easy thing to be able to prove. And don't put yourself in that position. There's a lot of people out there that are looking to take advantage of you. I told you, this is a really predatory thing that people are doing. Really, really a predatory thing. And it's a horrible situation. Now I was reading a couple of articles that were on this. I have one from Bankrate, actually, and it has the 5 common real estate scams and how to avoid them. And I'll tell you the 5 top ones that they had, and maybe I'll get into them a little bit. The number one that they have here, escrow wire fraud. Here's how it works. I'm going to read this out to you. You get an email, phone call, or text from somebody purporting to be, it should be reporting to be from the title escrow company, which instructions on where to wire your escrow funds. Fraudsters set up fake websites that appear similar to the title or lending company you're working with, making it seem like the real deal. Scammers use spoofing tactics to make phone numbers, websites, and email addresses appear familiar. But in these cases, one number or one letter is off. An easy thing to miss at first glance, explains Melinda Opperman, Chief Relationship Officer at Credit.org. If you blindly follow the wider instructions and assume it all well, you may find that you just become the latest victim of escrow fraud. The scammers, they've withdrawn the funds and offshore accounts somewhere and are sailing in the sunset with your hard-earned money. Meanwhile, you have few options of retrieving it. This is a realistic thing that happens. And that's actually why a lot of the real estate companies, a lot of the bigger ones, we do it all the time. We give wire fraud disclosures because this is a real thing, and people need to be educated about it. Now, real estate companies here, brokerages, don't hold escrow themselves. Usually, it's attorneys that do it, but the attorney do not hold a lot of these attorneys at higher regards because a lot of them, they're in the mix. I'm not saying they're all in the mix, and I'm not saying you shouldn't trust your attorney. However, you want to speak to them on the spot, and at the same time, no matter how good somebody is and how tight of a ship they run, they could get hacked, and they can lose the information that they might get you to spend money unnecessarily. Be very quiet. Anytime you're wiring any kind of money, you better question, and you better speak to somebody to verify. And you read that email thoroughly, and you read where it's coming from very thoroughly. And let's say, for example, you get it from an attorney. It shows like it's your attorney that said, "Oh, you need to wire the money over here." Blah blah blah. You think blindness. Oh, my attorney's asking, I have to send it. No. What I would do, not respond to the email. Call your attorney with the number that you have because it's your attorney, right? You should have their number. Call them, not a number that's on that email. Call them up, verify, and have them email if it's a true type of thing that needs to be wired. Have them email you or send you something in writing that's accurate and that kind of thing, and make sure that you cover yourself. Don't play games with this. People have lost tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars this way, millions of dollars in wire fraud. Be very careful. Be super careful. How to protect yourself from this? Let's see what they say here. Again, this is articles from Bankrate. How to protect yourself. Before you send money to a third party, go back to the original documents and you received from your lender and call the phone numbers listed there to verify the wiring instruction and you received. Well, very similar to what I said. I'm a genius. I know these things. Never click an email and text links or send money online. Very sound advice. Without verifying wire instructions with a live person on the phone from the number that you've called and verified, says Opperman. Again, I'll make it even clearer than what it says here. If you have an attorney, you should have their phone number already. Do not call any number off that email. Call your attorney first, directly on the number that you have that's associated with them. If you're doing business with them and you've done business with them, you should have their correct number. Don't go off of those numbers. Be very careful. And do not reply to that email until you verify. Be wary of any email or text requesting a change of wiring instructions that you already have, adds Odeta Kushi, a deputy chief economist at the First American Financial Corporation. Also confirm escrow account number before wiring and call your settlement agent to verify the transfer. Well, the attorneys are usually doing that with the wire instructions and that kind of thing. But again, if you're in a state that actually handles that differently, because in New York, a lot of the stuff is handled by the attorneys. Again, you're not off the hook just because the attorneys are working. You still got to be super careful. Let me see what we have here. Hey, George, thank you for joining us. This actually happened to Barbara Cochran from the Cochran Group. Her assistant actually fell for the phishing scam. Yeah, yeah. You can't, just because you're Barbara Cochran doesn't mean that you're above that. Her assistant wired 400,000 to a scammer. Yeah, that's how it happens. Nobody's above it. Anybody could get caught at a bad moment. Shame on the people that are in the business that should be a little bit more savvy about that. But again, who knows? Her assistant might have been some wet behind the ears kind of newbie in this and cause it. Should have been more on it when you're playing a game with hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions. But it's a crazy thing. So let me go into the next one. Number two. We got number one, that was escrow wire fraud. Number two is loan flipping and predatory lenders. Oh, well. Predatory lenders. That sounds familiar. That's something that we've had in the past. Do they still exist? I think so. They definitely do. And everybody has a different definition of what predatory lender is. But my definition of what a predatory lender is taking advantage of somebody that is in no position to be able to take a loan and granting it to them and putting them in a position of being completely underwater with no intention whatsoever of helping them out. That's my personal opinion of what a predatory lender is. For example, you got somebody that's cash heavy, doesn't have any credit, but they're not making a lot of money. They're buying $1 million property. Hey, I could put 50% down. I could put $500,000 down, but I'm only making, I don't know, $3,000-$4,000 a month. Odds are they could barely keep on to that place if that's what they're making to get a $500,000 loan on a place in here in New York, especially if you're paying the property tax, etc., whatever the case is. Let's say you lose your job, whatever. No cash reserves. They're not in a position to be able to purchase a place. They're going to get stuck. Bank will do it because they got 50% equity in the place. No problem. No problem whatsoever. How do you make your money? Don't worry about it. Stated income. We'll do that as well. That's a bad word. Stated income. Something that people should not be doing. However, it does exist still. People think it disappeared. At the financial crisis time, 2009, 2010, they thought it disappeared. No, it simmered down. It's not as evident as it was, but it still exists. Believe me, it does. So, loan flipping and predatory lenders. Loan flipping is where a predatory lender persuades a homeowner to refinance the mortgage repeatedly, borrowing more money each time. Unfortunately, I do know individuals that did this from the mortgage side, and they got locked up in jail. Not nice. Not nice. People, not nice at all. Loan flipping is when a predatory lender persuades a homeowner to refinance their mortgage repeatedly, often borrowing more money each time. Opperman explains that the scammer charges high fees and points with each transaction, and the homeowners get stuck with the higher loan payments and can't afford after being duped into borrowing the most of their home's equity. Seniors with memory impaired and especially vulnerable are especially vulnerable to these type of scams because they often have significant home equity and might not realize that they have been taken advantage of. Opperman adds, predatory lenders convince homeowners that they help them find a better loan product to use a cash out of refinance to pay for home renovations and make their homes more accessible as they age in place. Very commonplace. It used to happen all the time with the refinancing that was happening over the past couple of years because of all the rates that dipped significantly. You saw a lot of people pulling out more and more money. Yes, they are getting it at lower rates, but they're pulling out a lot of the equity. So if there's an imbalance at one point where the prices drop, they're going to be very, very house poor. Very, very house poor. And sometimes that's not a good thing. So you got to be careful with that. If you don't have a reason or a need to be able to pull out equity from a place, why would you? Why would you? Why would you do that? There's got to be a reason for that. Nobody in their right mind wants to pull out money, put it in the bank, and hold it, pay 3, 4, 5% on it, and get nothing from it in the bank, just to say I have it. It makes no sense. Unless they have a purpose of home renovation, they have another purchase that they made, a life emergency, medical bills, etc., etc. Be very careful. How to protect yourself from this? How to protect elderly homeowners who have cognitive issues should involve a trusted relative or friend. Careful of those relatives, people. Be careful of those relatives because you could trust them, but not always. Be careful. Trusted relative or friend in a key financial decision, especially about decisions related to their mortgage. If you've recently completed a mortgage refinance, it's usually not in your best interest to do another transaction right away. Solid advice. Solid advice. If you just got a refinance, unless the rates dropped another 2%, which I don't know how that happens, immediately right after, what's the purpose of refinancing time and time again? What's the purpose of that? It makes no sense. If predatory lenders are actively seeking you out and having requested their help, that's another warning sign that something is off. Work only will with known banks or lenders and question all fees, penalties presented to you. Opperman says lenders are required to provide loan estimates and closing disclosures, the list all the fees and third-party costs. Very true. So here's the thing. If you're going to be getting a loan or refinance or whatever the case is, you want to know all your expenses to the T up front before you sign anything. You want to make sure that you know what it's going to cost you because they're going to get you on gotchas. If you don't know what's going on and you sign something, oh, whatever, it's going to cost me, it's fees. It's fees. We're going to just pay fees. You're going to get a lot of gotchas. You got to be super careful. You want to be super, super careful as far as what you're getting into. So get all that stuff up front. Review these documents carefully and have a trusted advisor do so. If you're refinancing a mortgage, yeah. Okay. Pretty self-explanatory. Number three. Foreclosure relief. Homeowners who fall on hard times and get behind the mortgage payments can become desperate and save their homes. When the unscrupulous scammers using public records of homes in pre-foreclosure swoop in and offer foreclosure relief to capitalize on the victim's vulnerability, Opperman says, scammers will claim that they can help homeowners save their homes and reduce the mortgage payments for a large upfront fee. Opperman says, but often they leave the clients in worse financial steps. Okay. All right. So you got to be careful with this kind of thing. And I'll tell you why you have to be super, super careful. Because there's a couple of different avenues that you could take. One, in some cases, there are certain legitimate places that you can go to help you know what your rates are and be able to understand of what you can possibly do to work out a deal with the bank when you're in foreclosure. I get it all the time myself when people come in and they're underwater in the bank and I see that there's equity in the house and that kind of thing, and they might be eligible to be able to put it up for sale and be able to collect back money and pay off the bank and that kind of thing. Or they possibly work out a short sale where they're going to sell it at a loss, but the bank agrees to do that at a loss and everything is mutual. Everything is on the up and up. Yes, and there are fees that are attached to that kind of thing. There are always fees with that, but they're not going to take huge lumps up front and that kind of thing. And I do see more and more of these foreclosure relief type of companies taking some money up in a retainer up front, which is, here's the thing. If you're trying to save your home and you don't have the money to pay your mortgage, how exactly are you paying these fees and paying these individuals to provide you with a service? It might be better off that you actually try to work out a deal with the bank directly and try to take that money that you were spent on those fees and on that service to try to pay down your loan. Maybe, not always, but maybe that'll also be avenue. But what I do suggest in these cases, you definitely consult with somebody that actually knows what they're talking about. A lot of times I do this for a lot of people that are recommended to me or to my team as guidance. I kind of give them their options, don't really charge anything for them to sit down and have a consultation with me and kind of figure out their situation. Usually it takes a half an hour to an hour for me to get a complete understanding of what their situation is, unless it's complicated. And life is complicated these days. A lot of things are are they complicated? But that being said, it's something that I and my team, we provide as almost like a community service where we sit down like, all right, here's your situation. Maybe you want to go and talk to this individual. That kind of, here's your options that you could possibly go to. And I don't even know all the options because every single lender has different scenarios and different programs that they contribute and work with in order to work with buyers. And most of the larger banks, they have divisions that are just for workout systems with the clients that are in default and that kind of thing. And I will say one other thing is hiding and closing the door to the bank or the lender is not a really smart thing to do. If you have an issue where you're in default and you're getting letters, do not ignore the letters. Do not think they're just going to go away. Do not think that your problems will it's going to be over one day. You need to tackle it head on, and the earlier the better. And be realistic about your scenario. You can very well lose your home. Now, a lot of people don't do it. Oh, it's because it's embarrassing. Well, you know what? What's more embarrassing? If the marshal comes there and knocks down your door one day and pulls you out and throws everything on the lawn, is that more embarrassing, or possibly trying to do a workout or a short sale or a cash for keys situation or something to be able to work it out? Yes, you still lost your home, but you did it at least in dignity, and you didn't get literally thrown out of your house. But it's, everybody's got their own different ways of looking at things, and you got to be careful. That's all. In the wake of the financial challenges caused by the pandemic, foreclosure relief scams are on the rise. Yeah, well, just like everything else that's on the rise these days. While the government has worked to address these issues, and many banks have been taking additional steps to help distress borrowers, criminals are still capitalizing on fear. This might include offering to negotiate with your lender for a fee. That has been happening. Or asking for you to pay for them directly while they work to sort out a situation. That happens. And those, you got to be careful. Those may or may not be legitimate. They may or may not be legitimate. And it depends on the fees that they're charging. Nobody's going to work for free. That's understandable. That's very understandable. They're not going to work for free. However, there's a point. Look at this. People are putting me comments on all the different platforms, and I can't keep up with everybody. I'm going to try to keep up, and I'm going to get to your questions as soon as possible. And I'm trying to actually keep up with it. That's why it's a little different when you're doing things on a solo and you're by yourself and that kind of thing. It gets a little bit different. I kind of lean on Trevor a lot, when he's in studio to handle a lot of the messaging and calls. But Hey, I adapt just like anything else. So sorry about the distraction. Sorry, sorry about the distraction. So what I was saying is you got to be super careful of what fees and why you're paying fees and that kind of thing. But if it's a legitimate service or something like that they're doing and they're really mediating for you and that kind of thing, most of the time, they'll work out a deal where they'll take something as a retainer, or they may take a percentage of whatever they're able to save you or that kind of thing, and not actually take anything up front. Um, but it's a dicey business. The same thing applies to attorney. A lot of people, they'll go to attorney straight to basically drag it out for them, just drag it out for them, so they could stay in the house for like years upon years upon years without paying anything down on the mortgage, or limited money in the mortgage while they're being mediated and negotiated. Again, the attorney's constantly taking their fees. You got to be very wary of that. There's a agenda. There's the personal gain that's being received by this thing being prolonged. I'm not saying that all attorneys are that way, but I'm sure there's got quite a few attorneys that don't mind getting additional fees every time they have to work on something for you, and maybe they don't have the motivation to push it to get it wrapped up as fast as possible. Again, theorizing, not making accusations. I'm just saying reality of what it is. So how do you protect yourself from foreclosure relief? How do you protect yourself? The best way to avoid foreclosure is work directly with the loan officer, what we just said, to modify an existing loan requesting forbearance or make some other arrangement, short sale, etc., cash for keys. Homeowners can first enlist to help the HUD Accelerated Housing Counselor to see the options they have. Again, things that are provided to you right by the lenders, especially the big box lenders. Then include their counselor on a three-way call to their lender and find solutions. Hopperman says. Very wise. A scammer will then tell you to talk to the lender, and that's a huge red flag. A scammer will tell you not to talk to the lender, and that's a huge red flag. Yes. Yeah, that is a red flag. Opperman says it's hard to speak to your lender when you're in a imminent default and become delinquent, because you're afraid it might speed up the losing your home, and you open the lines of communication with your lender. So yeah, that is a common thing that happens, where a lot of people are afraid to speak to their lender directly and handle this, because they feel that they might say something that it will hurt them and that kind of thing. I'm going to be very clear with everybody, and everybody needs to understand where this is coming from. Banks don't necessarily want your properties. They want to get their loans paid off, and all the interest and all the fees and penalties and everything paid up. They don't want your property. They don't want your house. For them, it's a detriment of taking in those assets. Oftentimes, it's a loss, especially in a low equity kind of situation where they have like almost zero equity that's left in there. They don't want your home. They want to get their money. That's what they want. So if you could work out a deal where they could get their money or the majority of their money back, that's going to be the best pursuit that they could take. So you got to be very careful. Again, you don't have to speak to them directly. Do your research first and then call them up. But most of the banks, like if you go on Chase, you go on Bank of America, you go on to all these large banks, they have a guidelines section for these kind of situations, for hardships and that kind of thing. Go read it, read everything up. They usually send you a letter guiding you and directing you towards these sites where you can actually read up on what your rights are. Keep that in mind. All right. Look at this. Look at this. I talked about the rental scams, and it's actually number 4 on this bankrate.com list. Fake listings and rental scams. Scammers frequently post property rental ads on Craigslist and social media to lure unsuspecting renters, sometimes using photos from other listings. The scammers who have no connection to the property or its owner will ask for upfront payment. Look at this. Look at this. Where I'm on the same wavelength with bank rate. By the way, I did not read this. This is being read the first time. I like to read these things for the first time on a live stream or on the radio. That way, I'm just as surprised and intrigued as you are when you're reading these lists. Although it looks like I know everything I know here already. I don't know enough. I don't know everything. I know enough. We'll ask for upfront payment to let you see the property and hold its deposit. In reality, they're just looking to get quick cash through nefarious means, and often they succeed. Rental scams are alarmingly common. According to data from Apartment List, an estimated 5.2 million renters in the U.S. have lost money due to rental fraud. Of those, one in three lost more than $1,000. In fact, the problem is so prevalent that they are an entire section of the FTC website dedicated to rental listing scams. Look at that. You want to read up a little bit more about these scams? Go to the FTC website. Well, then you find out all about it. How to protect yourself. How to protect yourself. I'm not going to get too deep into this because I'm going to read off everything because I already got into this in the beginning of the stream. The FTC recommends that the renters educate themselves about potential scams and looking for a new place. It also urges renters to do their research and get all terms and details of their transaction in writing. Receipts. Remember that. Writing receipts. It's very easy. Proof. Think of it from that aspect. As a general rule, be suspicious of anyone who asks for a cash deposit up front to see a property, and says agent Nicole DeRusco of Warburg Realty in New York City. Warburg. Ensure you're dealing with a real property owner before negotiating rental terms and seeing a property in person. Try searching the local property appraisal's website to find out who the current property owner is and look contact information online. Very similar to what I was guiding everybody to do. Avoid doing transactions via email on the phone. Durasco says it's the best to be face to face to confront the property ownership, sign a required documentation, and make a payment. Use a check, never cash. Okay? Use a check, never cash to make payment so you have an automatic receipt of it. Durasco advises. Finally, always insist on speaking with the property owner before signing a contract or making a payment. If someone says that they're representing the owner, if somebody claims to be the real estate agent, ask them for their license or take a picture of it so you can confirm the information online through the state's division of real estate licenses, Durasco says. Very sound advice. Rings a bell, kind of what I was saying. I think so. So, we got one more left. One more on the list. There's a 5. This was a list of 5. There could be a list of 500 of these scams, but we're going to limit it to just 5 today because that's what's on the list. So, bait and switch movers. Once you've found a new place to call home, you have to deal with getting all of your stuff there. That's where moving scams come into play. Okay. Be very careful. Listen to this one carefully. Say you find out a form for a moving company estimate outlining all of your belongings. You receive an estimate for $4,000. But when the company shows up, they tell you it's actually going to cost you $10,000. Or maybe the company shows up and packed up your stuff and informed you that the total will be much more than they quoted initially, essentially holding your belongings for a ransom. Sure, a lot of people have had situations. This is not uncommon. You got to be very careful of what moving company you're using. You have to be super, super careful of that. You can't play games with that. I assure you. I assure you. This does happen, and it's very real. And they're uh, be careful. Do your due diligence on the company that you're hiring. Or maybe they just look you for your deposit and don't even bother to show up. That happens too. You know, you hire monkey business moving company. Well, they might not show up after they took your deposit. Look them up. Make sure that they're reputable. Don't use somebody that just is a startup. Now, that's not being fair to the people that are just starting out and they want to make a reputation for them. Well, you know what? The people that are already established in the business are making it harder for you to get into this business. But if you're able to survive the first couple of years of this and build a reputation for yourself, then you'll be all that better for it. Same thing applies to people in my business. Real estate agents don't necessarily have the greatest reputation across the board because you have a lot of them that don't do the right thing, which makes it a lot more difficult for everybody that does actually do the right thing. So the people that are doing the right thing, they just have to work harder and make sure that they have a clean reputation, and they'll be in the best shape, and they'll be so much better for it. That's how it works. Unfortunately, this kind of thing happens all the time. The Better Business Bureau receives an average of 13,000 complaints. 13,000 complaints and negative reviews about moving companies every year. The wave of moving scams is so bad that the two leading companies, Mayflower and United Van Lines, look at that. By the way, Mayflower and United Van Lines, do not sue me for mentioning your name because I am reading an article that is from bankrate.com, and you go sue them for, defamation or whatever. Leave me alone. So Mayflower and United Van Lines launched Move Rescue, an effort to help protect those who are moving and provide help for those who are being scammed. Seems like somebody that's a good thing to do. Usually, whenever you see companies go out and do that, is because they are being so bombarded by fines, penalties, violations, fees that they have to pay, slaps on the wrist, that it's worth it more for them to actually throw the money and invest into a fix or a preventive kind of thing rather than actually doing the right thing and do the thing, or whatever the case is. But similar thing happens when places get caught up on identity theft and that kind of thing, where you have big companies that have break-ins consistently into their systems, and people are stealing information left and right. Instead of going and trying to repair whatever's going on, which they do have to do at some point, a lot of times they'll just they'll pay for you to have credit monitoring service for 6 months or whatever the case is, a year, and say, leave me alone. That covers you. Doesn't cover you. That's not enough. But anyway, that's a story for another day. Let's go on to the next page. How to protect yourself from bait and switch movers. Okay, how to protect yourself. Moving is expensive. Yes, it is. Done it. I don't like it. It's very expensive. And it can be tempting to simply go with the most affordable offer to transport your belongings. Happens all the time. People pick the cheapest biggest company, the cheapest one that will do it. This is an area, though, that you can't help shop solely based on price. Ask the moving company for their license number. They do have license numbers, typically. And see if there are any complaints that have been logged in with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Okay, that's a site I didn't even know about, so I learned something too today. I learned something new. Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, a division of the U.S. Department of Transportation. Okay. Check them out on BBB, Better Business Bureau, which we just talked about. The BBB also recommends getting the 3 in-person virtual quotes from the different companies. Okay, that's okay one. If your company gives a quote over the phone, it says that that's a red flag. Okay, I'm not sure about that. They could give a quote over the phone, as far as I'm concerned, no problem. But send it to me in writing after you get on the phone. Maybe it is a red flag, maybe it's not. But I have no problem if I'm speaking to some salesperson or somebody that I'm working out a deal on my moving costs, and they tell me a quote, and then they follow up by putting it right. I personally don't have issue. I don't know the legality of that, or if it's actually a good thing or bad thing for that to do it, but that's what it says over here, that it's a red flag. Not exactly sure why. Lastly, avoid giving a chunk of money in advance, a large chunk of money in advance. Avoid giving a large chunk of money in advance. While a small deposit is normal to reserve the movers, reputable companies will not require full payment until a job is actually completed. It doesn't necessarily say how much that deposit should be. Should it be 10%? Should it be 5%? Should it be 30%? Should it be 25%? Should it be 50%? Doesn't say how much. And at the same time, when they say a large chunk, well, it all matters on how big the move is. So, I don't know. I'd be very careful of how much to put down there. And at the same time, some of these moves could be costly. It could be $20,000, $30,000, $50,000. All you know. It could be. It definitely could be. So we'll see. Who's that? It looks like we're getting more people joining us. Hey, Kelly, thanks for joining us. Yeah, I am later than usual. Like I was mentioning in the beginning of the show, we're not doing our radio broadcast today. This is purely a live stream that we're doing just to put out something that I think is of value to everybody. We're talking about some real estate scams that are out there. And wasn't sure if anybody was going to log in or not. Everybody still has a lot of that hangover from Easter, and a lot of people are away for this week and Passover. And for the Greek people like me, we do everything a little differently. We got Easter this Sunday. This is our Holy Week. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on that I figured it'd be best to take a break from the radio show and just do a live stream today. We'll be back to normal again next Monday on the radio show at 6 to 7 p.m. on WGBB, et cetera, et cetera. But, I don't know, George, I don't know if Kelly would appreciate me putting that up there. Maybe I guess it is a compliment. But you gotta get me in trouble. Somebody's gonna get me in trouble. Well, that's all right. We don't have FCC, so I don't have to worry about it. All right, Kelly's taking that as a joke. But how to report a real estate scam. All right, we'll just get into that to wrap up this topic. And if anybody has any questions or anything they want to add to it, I'll definitely do that. How to report real estate scams. So if you really got an issue and you want to report it, how do you do it? How are you going to do it? Well, first of all, you're going to call people out and on the spot. Make sure you don't let yourself get caught up in this real estate. But let's say you get suckered in and you lose money on something, or somebody tries to make you lose money. Many real estate and rental scam victims are too embarrassed to file complaints, and that's very true. And then you have the opposite part of the spectrum where you have people that haven't been scammed that make a report because they're trying to get over. So you got to balance. But that's true. A lot of people that have been scammed, and sometimes it's not for a lot of money, so they're like, it's not worth it. A few $100. I learned my lesson. I don't have the time for this kind of thing. A lot of people don't do it, which is not a good thing. You should always report it. If you got scammed by somebody, you should definitely report it, and don't be embarrassed. I don't care if it's $100. I don't care if it's for $1,000. I don't care $500,000. If it's $1, if they did the wrong thing by you, you should definitely make a point of telling people and reporting it to the right places. So they're too embarrassed to file complaints, making it harder to catch the scammers who repeatedly victimize unwitting homeowners, home buyers, and renters. Opperman says, if you believe you're being targeted, it's important to take the steps to notify the proper authorities. The best place to start is with the FTC. That's where we had talked about before. You definitely want to have something like that going on. When you file a report with the agency online, it's entered into a database that reaches local, state, and federal enforcement agencies. You can also file a complaint with the BBB scam tracker. BBB gets people's attention. The Better Business Bureau gets people's attention, just like consumer affairs and that kind of thing. It's one of these things that pop up very high up in the Google searches and stuff like that oftentimes. So if there's major complaints that are put in a certain company, they do get attention, which help notify others about potential fraud activities. If you want a better chance at connecting with an individual to hear your story, consider contacting the state consumer protection agency as well. All these are viable things. Viable things. I've had people approach it, they take it to the media, newspapers, and stuff like that. Hey, these writers and a lot of these reporters, they're always looking for something, some kind of hook, some kind of story to get around. So if you got a situation where you're getting scammed big time, I'll tell you something. They hate. Oh my God, the media, usually they hate the real estate industry. So you tell them something bad about somebody in the real estate industry, whether it's agent, broker, manager, landlord, whatever the case is, you tell them something about them doing something wrong. Well, they're gonna go after. They're gonna. Is it true? I don't care. They said it's true, so we're gonna go after it, and ask for forgiveness if it's wrong later. That's usually how it works, especially with a lot of these papers and that kind of thing. For some reason, they have an agenda against the real estate professional, and in some cases, they're right. Some people should get crucified. Honestly, they should. But what they do is basically throw everybody on the umbrella. We lump everybody up. We lump everybody in the same umbrella and under the same umbrella. And I hate that. I hate that when that happens. But it is. That's life. That's life. They try to cancel real estate agents half the time. Well, can't cancel me. I go by the beat of my own drum. If you have already fallen victim to a scam, you will likely need to do more than simply file a complaint. Particularly if you handed out any private information. IdentityTheft.gov is the government's online portal for anyone who is worried about a criminal is acting in their name. Remember that your home isn't the only target of criminals either. Be sure to be on the lookout for these scams and that target your financial accounts. Yeah, that is a part of it as well. Also falls into the whole wiring scheme and that kind of thing. And then you have another thing here that says bottom line. Bottom line. Bottom line. Real estate scams can be scary, but if you know what to look for, you can identify the scammer when you see one. Like I said, open your eyes. If you go in there, you do your due diligence, you go in there, open eyes. You don't trust everything you're going to hear. I'm not telling you to go and basically disassemble everything you hear, but be careful how you approach things. Just be careful. It's important to know who you're dealing with. Verify the dealings of someone's identity as much as possible. Double check all the banking transactions. Be careful. Record all the transactions in case you need to go back and file a complaint. Yeah, paperwork, due diligence, the whole nine. You guys get the point. There's a lot of not so nice people out there, and they are looking to take all your money. So be careful. Do not let them take your money. And if you have a story or something like that you would want me to talk about, or you want to go on here and tell you about a situation like this that you had, whether you're watching now or on the replay later on, I'm sure most of the people that are going to be watching the stream are going to be watching on the replay. But regardless of the situation, whoever's watching at any given time, you have no problem having me give you the platform. You could always email me at realestateplayradio@gmail.com. You could comment. You could put something in the chat, etc., etc. You could get me. Oh, and while let's do this YouTube thing that everybody has to do. While you're at it, you gotta like, subscribe, and leave a comment and share everywhere. Share everywhere. Tell everybody about this crazy guy that talks about real estate all the time. Maybe they'll appreciate it. Maybe they'll hate it. Maybe they'll love to listen to me to put them to sleep. Regardless, if somebody could find a use for a lot of the videos I put them, whether they're finding it enlightening, whether they're finding it entertaining, whether they enjoy the rhythm of my voice, whether they like to put their kids to sleep by listening to it, I'm all for it. At least there's a function. At least there's a use to the videos I put there. Honestly, I put these things together just to make sure that we're putting out something of value for people and that they could actually benefit from. You know, I had to learn a lot of things the hard way, and a lot of people have to do the same way. So if you got somebody that's actually knowledgeable and has some education on this, you might as well use it. And now you're going to say, well, why are you telling us these things? Or why are you giving us your secrets and that kind of thing? Well, I'll tell you exactly why I'm giving my secrets. Because right now, everybody that gets scammed by something like this, everybody that gets lose money is another black guy in the real estate business. And I do things on the up and up, and I like to make sure that I have the least path of resistance because of other people that are doing the wrong thing. So if I could expose people that are doing the wrong thing and they could actually get caught, or if there's people out there that can avoid these kind of traps, it makes my life easier as a professional. It makes the life of every other professional out there that does business in the real estate industry. It makes all of our lives easier by having a more educated public. And then we all make more money that way. That's just how it works. That's just how it works. So that's my list today. Figured I put a video together. Look at this. We went over. I don't know how over we are. What's the minutes that we have in the video? I don't know. It's an hour and 22 minutes. We went 22 minutes over what the usual real estate plate radio show is. So that's the benefit of doing the live stream. I don't have Trevor try to push me out and tell me playing out the jazz music to get me out of the studio and that kind of thing. Although it does make my life easier when I'm taking in calls and trying to go through all the chats and all that stuff. But hey, it's a balance. It's a balance. And at least anybody that's listening now or anybody that listens in the future, you actually get something a little bit more. Hey, driver's seat, how you doing? Glad you show up. Hope you're able to catch a little bit of what I talked about in the previous portion of the show, because I did talk about stuff that I think you might actually find interesting. We're talking about real estate scams and things like that to be aware of and that kind of thing. And there's a lot more things, people. I'm just going to tell you something. I'm just going to tell you something. There are so many more things that are going on right now. Am I losing weight or is it me? I am losing a little bit of weight. I just recently joined the gym, built some muscles up, that kind of thing. Try to lose a little bit of weight. And speaking of which, I need to get. Look how white I am. Look at the technology. It's so wonky when you're doing this with the look at it, you can't even. I hate it, but doing my best to try to lose some weight, try to look my best so that I don't crack screens and scare people away and make babies cry, and feel healthy. That's basically what we're trying to do and what I'm trying to do. So, appreciate it that you noticed. Hopefully, it becomes more noticeable going down the line. But I got a lot of blubber and stuff like that. I gotta get rid of. And this thing, I'm also a very big believer in lead by example and practice what you preach. So if I'm seeing and making a big deal about people being presentable and making themselves look good and stuff like that, and when they're presenting high-end houses and properties, etc., I should be in that too, as well. So I should be taking care of myself in the best possible way I can. So lead by example. That's the way I look at it. What do we got here? Keep your bank account fat. Yeah, well, that's the plan. Keep the weight off your body and keep it in the bank account. That's a great thing to say, and maybe that's going to be a quote. That's going to be the quote. Keep your bank account fat and keep your body slim. Maybe we could go by doing that. But that being said, there are so many other things that are happening out there. Tons of scams. And you know what? I'll do a follow-up stream at one point and to let everybody know about it. And hopefully I'll be able to help guide people into stuff that's not so known. Stuff we talked about is pretty mainstream, at least for people in the know a little bit. Maybe not necessarily for somebody that is living in a bubble, but these are pretty mainstream kind of scams that happen. Anybody that partakes in the real estate business, more than the average one house that you purchase, or if you're an investor and that kind of thing, you're pretty much aware of these kind of things. But the people and the targets that you usually see get hit by them are the ones that are either the tenants that are not read up and they don't know the laws. And by the way, when these scams do occur, it doesn't only cause a heartache on the tenants. It does not. It causes a heartache on the landlords as well. So you're not punishing only the tenants, you're punishing the landlords. You're punishing a lot of people in these cases. And I'll tell you how it punishes both sides, because the tenant, it just got out and lost all this money. But guess what? Especially in a place like here in New York, you're not going to have the opportunity to be able just to say, I'm sorry, you got scammed, but you got to move out. No, it doesn't work that way. You got to go through the process first. And you'll probably lose a month or 2 months or whatever the case is. And let's say you need to move back into your house. Let's say you went on vacation. You're coming back home with your family. You're so happy, the vacation, you relax. All of a sudden, you open up the door and you see, who the hell is this? You got a whole new family that's still living in your house. Horror story, and it does happen. So it affects everybody. So be mindful of that. And there's a lot of other stuff out there. Like I said, I could probably do a part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, all kinds of parts of this. So I will keep that in mind. I'll try to do my best as far as keeping everybody informed on a lot of the stuff that's happening, scams and stuff like that. I don't like to do negative type of shows, but these are the type of topics that people need to know about. So I'm very happy to be able to help guide everybody with these, and I thank you all for joining me. That being said, have a great night. Have a great week. Happy Easter to all my Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, everybody that celebrates Easter this week, because we're different. Everybody that's having Easter this Sunday, I hope you have a great one. I hope everybody makes a lot of money in real estate, and I hope to see you all again on Monday on our regular scheduled time of 6 to 7 on the Real Estate Plate radio show, which will be live again on the radio on WGBB, 1240 a.m., because I got all the numbers, 1240 a.m., 95.9 FM, streaming live on YouTube, streaming on Facebook, everywhere you could possibly figure. And that being said, I'm checking out. If you're just tuning in, subscribe, like, thank you, and have an awesome one. Have a great night, people. I guess I will see you. Thanks for joining us, everyone, again. Now, how do we turn this off? We are off.